What's going on, everybody? It's Pelfrey, and this is the Red Sea Reefer 250. If you paid attention to last week's video, I got a new piece of hardware in. I got the Neptune dose, so it's the two-head doser made by Neptune. Basically, I decided to grab it because I got a great deal on it. Found it on Reef Central. The guy that I got it from had never used it, it's brand new. So I was looking to upgrade dosers at some point anyway. I was actually leaning towards the GHL 2.1, and I've been doing quite a bit of reading on the GHL doser, and I don't have any personal experience with it now. From what I understand and what I've read, it takes a little bit to get it set up, and some of the threads that I've read on that particular doser had not necessarily scared me away from the doser, but I don't have a lot of time to invest in setting up a piece of equipment. So I decided that I was gonna get the dose. So it just kind of happened to pretty much fall in my lap since, like I said, I got a great deal on the doser itself. Now the downside is the GHL doser is a 4-head doser. The Neptune doser is a 2-head doser. I do dose ESV, the bionic alkalinity and calcium. Now mind you, since I don't have as many corals in the tank at this point, I'm only dosing like 3 milliliters. It's nothing substantial, but so you know, I could probably do away without a doser at this point. And then currently on the Coral Box doser, I'm dosing AquaPower as well. So I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with AquaPower moving forward. I do still at the moment have the Coral Box doser running because the tubing that I need for the Neptune dose wasn't long enough. That was kind of another thing, is I wanted to get the doser in my equipment cabinet. So for those of you that are new here, I have an equipment cabinet over to my right, and that's where all my controllers and everything go. So I wanted to get the doser in that cabinet and run the tubing from the doser to the dosing containers, which are underneath the stand, and then back into the sump. So let me take you off the tripod. We'll take a look at the equipment cabinet. Now mind you, it is a mess. I understand that it's a mess. Every time I've gone in there and attempted to clean that mess up, it's really only gotten worse. So at this point, I just leave it alone. I keep the door closed on it. Quite honestly, I'd hardly ever have to get inside that cabinet to begin with. And since I'm running the Neptune Apex Classic, I can control everything from my phone or from a laptop. So to be honest with you, I don't have to get in this cabinet very often to begin with. So by me putting the doser in the equipment cabinet and the dosing liquids underneath the stand, I'm already in the stand. Whenever I'm topping off my auto top off, I can look at the dosing containers, and you know, that would be my visual on whether or not the dosing containers need more liquid. So let's take a look at the equipment cabinet, and I'll further explain what's going on. So first things first, let's start at the bottom. I have an APC UPS that controls my whole system. So if there are any power interruptions at all, this carries the load for as long as it's needed. So just to go ahead and give the disclaimer, I'm not depending on this to run the system for any length of time because everything is plugged into it. What I'm using it for are power surges and small outages. So let's just knock that out of the way. But I think that anybody that has a reef tank, you should probably invest in one of these. You know, you got a couple $1,000 probably wrapped up in the tank and the equipment and the fish and the corals and everything. Spend $200, get you a good battery backup. So directly underneath the battery backup, like I said, excuse the mess here, I have my EB8, so the Neptune EB8, and I have everything labeled with just a number on it so that I know which outlet it goes to if it does get unplugged. Over on the left hand side here, I have the Tunze 3155 auto top off controller. We have the Neptune fluid monitoring module, the FMM, and I do have 4 sensors plugged into it. So 1, 2, and 3 are optical sensors that do various things, and then number 4 is a leak detector. Moving up, we have the Core 20. This is the controller. So if you don't know much about the core pumps, the 15 requires a 1 link, and does not come with the controller, but the 20 comes with the controller and can be ran without the Neptune Apex. Next up, I have the display for the Apex, which I just leave it in here, and like I said, I don't see it to begin with, so I just have it there so I don't lose the display. We have the Apex Classic Brain over on the right. We have the Neptune Apex breakout box, which I'm using 2 floats, and then the Maxspect Gyre advanced controller. And then last but not least, we have the Neptune dose. And you know, first impression is the dose was not at all bad to set up. It was very easy to set up. Fits in here pretty well. You know, of course, I am struggling for room inside this cabinet, and quite frankly, the cable management is just absolutely ridiculous, I'm aware. But I do have this pump set up. It's going to draw liquid from here, from the liquid containers underneath my stand, and it's going to dispense it out of this, which is going into the sump. And my first impression of the pump was I'd read that they were loud, and quite honestly, whenever I ran the pump, I didn't think it was that loud. So I'm satisfied with it. I do think that I could probably get another dose underneath here. So I'm either going to get maybe a BRS 1.1 milliliter pump, maybe an Avast Marine 1.1 milliliter pump, or if I can find another dose, I may do that. So the important thing here is if I do go with one of the BRS pumps or the Avast Marine, I have to plug it into either of these outlets, 4 or 8, because those pumps are low voltage pumps, and these 2 outlets on the EB8 are low voltage outlets. So since I don't have anything set up on this pump here, basically what you have to do on these pumps is whenever you get the tubing set up, these buttons right here, excuse me, will prime the pump. So you would basically just hold it in until the liquid fills in the tubing, and then you would go into your Apex Fusion dashboard and calibrate the pump. But for sake of the video, I'm gonna run this pump so you can see how loud it is or isn't. Just depends on your opinion of loud. So like I said, I don't think that is that loud. And by the time you put the door on this cabinet here, you don't even really hear it. Taking a look at the inside of the cabinet, I am still using the Voss water bottles. And, oh, excuse me there. So basically we have the input. So this is going to the pump. And then we have the outputs coming down here. So I'm gonna have to tidy all this up. And I'll take care of that as soon as I get the extra tubing in and I can pull the coral box doser out of the system. Truth be told, I've had no issues out of the coral box doser. It's worked flawlessly for me. I bought it right around Black Friday. So I just wanted some a new piece of equipment to play with. So I went ahead and decided to upgrade the doser. But I feel like if it's a coin toss, if it's a Jabo dosing pump or the coral box dosing pump, I've not used the Jabo, but for the ease of using the app, this thing works. So a quick overview. Once again, this is the equipment cabinet, and this door stays on this cabinet 99.9% of the time. I don't have to get in there. I made it for a couple different reasons: to keep the equipment out from underneath the stand and to keep everything dry. So the second thing that I did is, clearly I have kids, so I have a plastic cover on here so that nobody can accidentally unplug any of the accessories. So again, just to reiterate what I said, had no issues with the coral box Wi-Fi doser. I like to tinker with things and play with things, probably a little bit too much, and it shows, but again, I got a good deal on the Neptune dose, so I just went ahead and got it. And you know, with the Apex Classic, you got to go into the Classic dashboard to make sure that your modules, the firmware is up to date. So it's not a big deal. For me, that means that I have to run patch cable, Cat 5, Cat 6 patch cable from the cabinet upstairs. So I have a 30-foot patch cable And whenever I add a new module to the Apex, I pull the patch cable out, plug it into the Apex, go upstairs, plug it into my router. Not a big deal. Basically, I do have a wireless extender that runs my Apex, and that's fine for running the Apex, but Neptune highly suggests that you do not try to update the firmware over Wi-Fi. So, you know, heed that with the best warning that you have. I'm sure that others have been successful doing it over Wi-Fi. I simply choose not to. On a side note from that, Neptune does now offer the 2016 brain that you can swap out your classic brain for. And I looked at doing that, except I'm probably gonna need at least, see, I have the temp probe and a pH probe. And I probably need to look at getting a new pH probe at some point anyway. So by the time you factor in the head unit that doesn't come with any probes, and then buying probes, and then if you want the power monitoring, you got to buy the new EB8 or 832 or whatever that module is. It just isn't cost effective for me. And the reason that Apex released the head unit is you have to have the new head unit to run the Trident whenever it comes out. I don't have any plans to run Trident. I don't have enough room as it is on this particular system to put a big piece of equipment that's going to test daily, or as often as you want it to test. And then the second thing is I understand that Trident's going to have to pull, of course, it's going to have to pull water from your aquarium to do the testing. And you know, if it pulls out 15 mLs on a regular basis and my water's being topped off with top-off water, I'm going to be in the same situation that I was a couple weeks ago where my salinity dropped. So that's about it for this update. So far, like I said, satisfied with the Neptune dose. Not really sure how I'm going to address the third head. I could save quite a bit of money by going the BRS route, and those are tried and true 1.1 milliliter dosers. So that may be the direction that I go in. In the comment section below, if you're using a doser, I'd like to know what you're using. That's about it, folks. Hopefully I can get some coral sometime soon. That's on the list of next items, so stay tuned for that. And as always, I do appreciate you following along on this journey with me as I attempt to not mess too many things up, but it's a learning experience, excuse me, a learning experience, and I'm just gonna keep moving forward. So as always, appreciate you following along. Like, comment, subscribe, check out the website, pelfrey.net. Check me out on Instagram at pelfreysreef, and I'll see you on the next one.